Greetings, everyone. I'm Angelo Robles, the founder and CEO at SFO Continuity, Family Office Masterclass, and of course, Family Office TV. Thank you all for being a part of our live today. It has been really exciting to do these, and some I've done solo, some I've led interviews on. As you can see, we're joined by a special guest today, but we're going to reverse the roles a little bit, where our special guest is really going to take the lead and ask the questions. And the topic that I know many of you are interested in: think like and speak the language of the ultra wealthy. I would define ultra high net worth as $30 million and up. And to give you some context, there's about 400,000 on record, which means there's probably more around the world. And based on statistics from 2022, which was a terrible year in the market, that number actually came down. The number is expected to increase about 20% over the next 2 years. So this is a very viable market. It is large, it is growing, and it's one that many of you would like to be more familiar with. So our special, I would say guest, but she's really going to be both a guest and lead interviewer or head of the program at Family Office TV today, is a good friend, Tosh Salas, founder of Capital Alignment. Tosh, welcome.
Hey, Angelo, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. I hope everyone gets to really enjoy this interview, because I don't think they've ever had something like this. And I'm just getting everybody prepared because the questions are going to be really good. I'm an attorney, and when people ask me why did I went to law school, is just to be very argumentative and being paid for it.
I'm in trouble today, everyone.
I think you are, but in a good way. I just hope that we can provide as much value to our audience, because, time is our most valuable resource. So I thank everyone that is here with us today. And again, I'm just really excited. I'd like to give a quick intro of how I connected with you. This was in 2020 through a podcast. I think you were extremely active at that point, during the pandemic. We were all a little bit bored. So I just had extra time in my hands. I usually don't have a lot of time for media. And I listened to a couple of your interviews with great advisors. And I was fascinated by that because in my space, which is really more the investing side, I don't hear very often people having conversations with advisors, right? And with quality advisors. So I was fascinated. So I follow your path since then, not too many years ago, but at least 3 years. And then a few months ago, I reach out to you and I say, hey, Angela, what are you up to? I love to be part of what you're doing because you're doing something very special. That's at least that's how I feel. You're doing something very special. When I first started in the ultra high net worth family office space, I wasn't impressed. And I say this humbly, I just wasn't impressed with the quality of the events, the quality of people, and the level of competence, to be quite frank. And, in a more maybe deeper way, I wasn't impressed either with the quality of people in terms of like their humanity, their kindness, their generosity. So when you started doing something different than Family Office Association, I said, he has been extremely successful. You're in the top 3 in the searches. So I said, what is he up to? And, now you're building something remarkable, much more valuable, in my opinion, than just an association, because you're building a way to connect very competent people with those that need it the most. And trust me, that's scarce. Those that don't understand that, they haven't been in many events yet. So thank you so much for having me here, for sharing these last few years with your audience more active. I think we all really appreciate it. And, I'll just introduce myself very quickly. I work as a director of business development and partnerships for the investment arm of a single family office based in New York. And I also collaborate in private affairs for ultra high net worth individuals. As you said, ultra high net worth is anyone who has a net worth or investable assets of 30 million to around, in my opinion, $250,000, $250 million. That's the range that I usually focus on. So, with no more to say about myself, you ready?
Wow, I am ready. That is a great background. And to give a little context, both me and Tosh are very experienced internationally with travel, with really understanding the nuances and the differences of the ultra high net worth in different regions around the world. You stole one of my key words that my audience has been hearing me use a lot lately, and that's the word competency. And the difference between being an excellent advisor servicing the community and someone who may be struggling a little bit or still looking for more clientele. It's actually very, very little. Do you really think the competency difference is that stark? It's not. But let's not give away a little bit of all the secrets, because even I don't exactly know what you're going to be asking. So again, I'm going to turn over the floor to you to lead the dialogue, and let's get going.
Let's get going. Well, I'm going to start with soft questions.
Which means they're the hardest ones. Okay, go for it.
The good stuff for the end. But, with your extensive experience, Angelo, in the family office space with working with ultra high net worth individuals, can you provide some insight into the current macro and micro challenges facing ultra high net worth individuals and families?
I like when anyone goes to ask that question and goes with the word experience. I think that's a nicer way of saying that, Angelo, you've been around a long time. That means you're kind of old. But you know what? With age should come wisdom.
Yes.
What we sometimes lack as we age is not identifying our blind spots and letting our past successes, our ego, get in the way. So we may get to some of that because that does apply to the advisory community a little bit later. But directly diving into your question, ooh, I love macro. So you gave me macro and micro. Where could I start? We're in a world of grave challenges. We have a velocity of destruction, in my opinion, going on that is bordering on being unprecedented. We have issues geopolitically around the world. We have economics. So understanding geopolitics and economics, you're going to understand more about ultra high net worth, how they think, and what should be a concern and a vulnerability of them. In the US, although it still is, 13 or so months away, but it's already heating up. We have elections coming up, and we have tremendous bifurcation, I guess you could say, on both sides. It's believed that inflation is getting more under control. I don't necessarily believe it. I look also in North America at Canada, and I hear people just like literally showing, this is what $100 in groceries are getting me, and I got like 50% more last year. So there's lots of problems with the economy, with our deficit, with the inflation, and with interest rates, which here in the US with our Fed is like a yo-yo. It's been a grave challenge, and why the economy, especially last year, gravely slowed down, causing a decrease in the number of ultra high net worths, is because of the change in monetary supply. So again, I know we don't want to make this a deep macroeconomic discussion. Many of you have heard my multi-hour discussions on Family Office TV and other platforms with Mark Faber, Adam Robinson, Jared Dillian, and so many others. So as you can tell, I get a little passionate about the subject. But we have problems that are not just going to be swept under the rug. They're not just going to go away. And if you want to be of service, and if you want to be unique in terms of servicing the ultra high net worth, you better believe they are interested in these subjects. And I guess you could argue, the world is changing. The US, since Bretton Woods, the dollar has been dominant. The US has been a dominant country, and the world is changing. We have new entrants that are obviously China, which has evolved over really the last 40 or 50 years, but especially the last 10 or 15. What I'm saying, and I'm not saying anything new, we're changing from a unipolar world to not even to or by, but to multi. We have the rise of many of the BRICS and other countries where the world is changing. So there is a threat to dollar hegemony, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And how many of your families that you represent, even those that are global, where probably 90% plus in the US, probably 99% plus of their assets and resources are tied in to the US dollar. And look at the challenges that we're seeing that are happening right before our very eyes as the world is changing. So what families are going to be concerned about is continuity in the family. And that is going to be gravely threatened financially, politically, by the issues we're seeing from a geopolitical and economic level, to many other issues that we'll get into. And actually, a little bit of a comical note, although not really, everything that I just described is not the threat to families that is really inside the family. The greatest threat to family continuity is family, but we're going to get a little bit to that. On the micro level, in terms of diving into that, being competent, identifying blind spots, moving ego aside. And you want to know what a lot of this relates to, and you want to know some of the secrets about being valuable within the family to preserving and continuing family continuity. It's two other of my favorite words that relate to competency, and that is capacity and capability. Capacity revolves around the underlying ability of the family to adapt to changing and challenging circumstances, whereas I would place capability as the internal knowledge, the warehouse of understanding finances, trust, banking, and a lot of the issues going on. So both from the family side, the rising generation specifically, and the advisory community, they would all benefit from enhanced education, leading to competency, leading to enhancements in capability and capacity, as I mentioned.
Yeah. Well, Angela, I want to, just kind of go back a little bit to the macro picture that you gave us. Thank you for that.
We're so sunshine, I know.
Yes, definitely. No, this is great. So, you asked me about the families that I work with and the challenges that they have. I guess this is like a generational thing, and I am not calling you old, okay? But this is a reality that maybe older people than you didn't really expect. Families are now more globalized than never before, right? So you have parents living in Europe, children living in the US, grandchildren living in Latin America. So everyone is like in a different place, or they have investments in different places of the world. And while that is definitely an opportunity, it also carries all the challenges that you were just describing. Like if you just live in the US and you don't have assets anywhere else, very rare, then you have less risk than most other families. But global families and global individuals have unique challenges that they could address with a very competent and unified team. But that's really hard to find, right? So in the micro picture, they need to start actively looking for people that can help them, that they're smarter than them, that they're more proactive than them in different locations of the world. So, that leads me to my next question based on the macro picture that you say. Can we discuss a little bit the critical role of education and professionalization addressing the challenges faced by the ultra high net worth individuals? And how does this tie into your vision for improving the industry?
Yes, and it's even worse than actually you're kind of building upon what I said. So maybe you're in the kind of doomsday, but you want to be optimistic about the future. You want to prepare for the worst and have an opportunity that it's not as bad, but it makes you sleep better at night and procures, again, the ultimate for the super rich, which is continuity. But just because you may be international, depending on what international country and the diversity of your interests, I'm still going to say for the most part, again, it depends on what country, you are tied in to the US in multiple different ways. And again, I don't want to make this a lesson in economics and the Fed and central banking, but the dollar is so dominant although weakening, and although, again, the world is changing, that likely even being an international citizen, okay, maybe not 99% like a US citizen, but you're probably still 85 to 90% plus tied into the dollar. And no, do I think that's going anywhere in the next year or so? No, but I think that things are changing. And sometimes, like a hockey stick, it does happen fast. Relative to your more pointed question, I think education is interesting. It's very important, but education without implementation or execution is kind of wasteful. A lot of people get educated and they're book smart, they're rote memory smart. Maybe their IQ from a memorization perspective is good, and that's not invaluable. Although I would argue it will never be as good as even the AI that we currently have, which is countless times better on effectively what amounts to rote memorization without the ability to be creative and to execute. Now, we're probably going to get into some of that, and the advent to my audience heard me talk a little bit about AI replacing even the CEO last week. So we'll dive a little bit into that. But what you just asked kind of relates a little bit to what I jumped into before. Education is an opportunity to get competent, which allows the opportunity for capacity and for capability. But it's way more than just strictly an intellectual perspective, because again, how the world is changing in a variety of ways with access at our fingertips to any statistical big data or information, the more analytical in some ways we get. And I could argue family offices would still benefit from being more analytical. The greater competition in some ways we're also going to have from AI and from technologies in general that simply do it better. So is intelligence more than just knowing something? It's the opportunity, as I said, to execute, and it's the emotional attachment, the emotional intelligence, the ability to be a critical thinker. If it seems any idea that you have in the family office world, probably someone else already thought of, and how you're going to be creative in the community is to come up with an idea that probably on the surface kind of sounds a little idiotic, because that's how you create something great. I could even go back to the founding of Facebook. Really look at it in its initial incarnation on the campus of Harvard, kind of rating women. And you know what? It adapted and it grew. And that's kind of what you as an advisor or as a family office, what's the old saying from Darwin? It's not the strongest or the smartest per se, it's the capacity to adapt. If you read the writing of General Stanley McChrystal, the work of Nassim Taleb, Sparknickel, if I'm getting his name right, who is the Universa founder of the great hedge fund and incredibly interesting Spitznagel, Mark. It's the hedging your risk and understanding the opportunities for adaptation are really, really going to be critical and going to be important to any sort of success in the areas that we're talking about. Now, this goes back to what you were hinting at in terms of you don't have to have all the answers, but you have to have a connectivity, a connection to that. So one of the things after 20 years or so in this community and traveling the world and being out there in the family office world, I'd like to hope I built up, if nothing else, hopefully better than a good suit and tie, I built up a great Rolodex. So having an opportunity for me to create what I call a dream team and having access to, in specific scenarios, who are the best in legal, accounting, and finance, and banking, and investment banking, and cyber, etc., and constantly updating that, constantly. So the opportunity for you as an advisor in any aspect in the community, you don't have to have all the answers. You have to have emotional intelligence. You got to be able to communicate. You have to have the capacity and willingness to learn and to adapt as times are changing. And you have to be 1 degree removed from, in today's world, really global, the people that truly are the best of the best. And pardon advisors if some of you find this a little offensive. I don't mean this to be negative. There are some of you that rise above this. But are you really that special? Are you irreplaceable? Or in some aspects, is it kind of a commodity?
Are you asking me, Angela? Because I know the answer for myself.
I want to hear your answer. Please share.
I am definitely irreplaceable. No, I think this is
No, you're not.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, but like I thought you were leading to compliment me. Like you don't have to be the smartest. You just need to have some emotional intelligence. I've always told that to people. I think I was a mistake in the system because I went like to the Mexican Harvard, graduated from law school, and I never really thought I was the smartest person in the room. Actually, I knew I wasn't, and that was exciting for me. Because I knew that I could bring value in different ways, in ways that education is not just enough. And I want to talk a little bit about education because I think it's just a little bit different than it was maybe 15 years ago, maybe less. But education these days is not going to school and learning stuff. It's educating yourself consistently in what's going on in every industry. How can you implement different things happening out there to your success and to your client's success? Then also, professionalization is not a vertical situation, in my opinion. It's more horizontal. Like you need to be professional. Yes, you can be the best, the most intelligent accountant or attorney. But if you're not professional, if you don't actually know how to answer an email on time, if you don't know how to have a conversation, if you don't have critical thinking, you are very easily replaceable. Right. So I always talk to people, I talk to attorneys all the time, accountants all the time. And I'm not really trying to get to know what clients do they have because they can say whatever. I'm trying to see if they're professional, if they can respond an email, if they can follow up, if they can be proactive, and that is really what families are doing. So I work with these families, I help them find some of their advisors, and I out of 20, maybe I'll get to have a second conversation with one. So that's what I really mean by professionalization, not just education. Like emotional intelligence, that is critical, right? Critical because in this space, there's so many personalities, right? So you also need to understand how to leave that behind, and then move forward with, the situation, not get caught up in personality. So all of that really plays. And I think with your dream team project concept, you're going to be putting a lot of value out there because you're going to be vetting a lot of these people, which again, I just said, it's tremendously time consuming, and you have to know what it's right for the client. And then you're also going to be like adjusting the expectations and personalities of the ultra high net worth individuals. So I love what your vision is for improving the industry with Dream Team. Now, with your interactions with over 40 billionaires, I mean, that's insane, and numerous centimillionaires, what is the recurring challenges that you observe in efforts to secure top-notch talent and advisory services? And how do these challenges impact their continuity?
Wow, where do I even start? So I've used these analogies before. You ask someone who's successful, I need a dentist. What dentist should I go to? And they'll gladly mention their dentist. Was your dentist good? Well, what do you expect them to say? Partially their ego is involved. So of course they're going to say their dentist is good, but what's their qualifications for making that analysis? Is it because they went to dental school as well? It's because they've seen every dentist in town or are comparing them. It simply means, is my dentist, without me knowing too much, solving a problem, hopefully without too much pain, and it's like it's happening in the background and I'm not thinking too much about it. But that relates a little bit to confidence versus competency. There kind of is really no such thing as confidence per se, partially due to it can't be measured. Competency is hard enough to measure, but in theory it could be. So you have to, my audience has heard me say before, are you more using the NBA example, great, you're in the NBA, but are you more the 12th man, the last person on the bench, or are you at least in the 8-man rotation? Better yet, are you in the starting 5? Better yet, are you an all-star? So to be a LeBron James, you have to have such inherent talent that you could be the 12th man. You could eat and lift weights like no other. You could have the best coaching. You could put in 22 hours a day. You still won't be LeBron James. The good news is, for those that work at an SFO or advising an SFO, give me something I could work with, maybe a little bit on the higher average scale of intelligence coupled with hunger and the ability to adapt. You could absolutely be great. So another, I don't know if it's an analogy, but whatever family offices, families of wealth, and the advisory community is doing at the moment, we do know it's kind of not working. Well, what do I mean by that? Research shows that descendants halve their inherited wealth relative to growth of per capita GDP every 20 years or less. Today, the massive fortunes of the 19th century, for the most part, 99.9%, are overwhelmingly depleted. And the fortunes generated just half a century ago, a couple of generations, are effectively gone. So here's something that maybe for the audience to listen up a little bit to. Emphasize the value of preparing the family more than protecting. I know I like to talk about hedging and mitigating risk, protection. So even for me, it's not easy. But the way that you do that is you prepare the family. And again, I go back to education, leading to competency, leading to the opportunity for capacity and capability. The greatest threat to the family is the family, period. It is not getting 2% less on their investments. It is not this or that. All those could contribute over time. I get it. I'm an investment person at heart. I want to get above inflation. I want to deal with the fact that multiple people are pulling at the trust and capital. Therefore, I need to get 8, 9, or 10% a year on average. I understand that. That is an issue. Maybe not as much of an issue as we're going to talk about today, because it's not as important as what I just described. So what is being done is kind of not working. And that creates the opportunity for you as a generational member in the family to change that paradigm and don't be among the average. And for those of you advising the community to have a deeper impact. It is not enough to now know just what you do. I do accounting, I do legal, I do finance. You need to be to some degree more polymath. You need to be more diverse. You need to know how to work with AI and technology to enhance your capability. And you need to constantly be focusing on those things that I mentioned for the families to focus on. You have to focus on them. Education, capacity, capability, and keep on focusing on being greater in your competence, identifying your blind spots. We all have them. And I know it's hard to do when we've had some level of success and age brings upon us a little bit more of a rigorous mind that doesn't adapt as well. We got to be very, very careful of the ego. I mean, there's just so many different questions. Just looking inside a family of wealth or their family office, like, one, should they even have the family office? Could they do it excellently? Should they? And can they do it internally, or should they do it external? So in case you're wondering, multi-billion-dollar families on average, utilize 27 different outside advisors. So don't think just because it's a multi-billion-dollar family with a 21-person quote-unquote family office staff that they don't need you. They do. It's an opportunity for you to be part of the dream team. But going back to how I started to answer your question, how do they identify your capability and capacity, your competency, if, again, they randomly think anything they touch, like their dentist, is going to be great? Oh, yeah, my person is the LeBron James at what they do. How do I quantify that? So how do you step into that arena? How do you get their attention? Well, again, Tosh, we probably don't want to give all secrets away, but I'll give one little hint. Some of you saw the quote that I had with Russell and Prince in Private Wealth this week. I think it was on Monday. And what happens, let's think big with a family office. Most family offices don't make it 15 years. Most fall short even far quicker than that, more like 5, 6, 7 years. There's a generational shift in the family where more of the power starts to transition to a rising generation that may still be in their 40s or 50s or maybe younger. Do you think they stick with the same family office executives for the most part? No. Do you think they stick with the same advisors that their parents or the elders? Very, very rarely. So look for the opportunity of change within a family of wealth in your community, in your region, and look for that opportunity for what in that you might have to them. But again, I don't know if we want to give all our secrets away, but always happy to share with a lovely audience.
It's funny that you say secrets. I'm a big believer that there are no secrets. It's just information that people are not comfortable accepting, because then they would have to actually do something. So they refuse to understand that the information is out there. And just getting back to a little bit of what you're being saying, right? Like, I think part of securing top notch talent is we're going to start with education, right? If you don't know how to select your team, what our company does, and I'm not saying they have to operate like this, but they should, is to hire a specialist in hiring people, right? They have a chief of staff, a human resources person. So this is also how things are changing, evolving for some advisors. So I see a lot of CEOs of family offices that, yes, they know the patriarch's gonna die, so they transition to another family. But also, before they transition, they should actually make an effort to integrate the younger generation to create a smooth transition. That is something that we talk about, but we don't even have a process to do that. I mean, it's as simple as, like, in my family, right? Like, we're by any means like an ultra high net worth family. Actually, I come from very, very humble family. But just now that we have some money, dealing with the attorney, the accountant, my dad is just like, no, no, you don't need to talk to them. I'm like, yeah, yeah, I do. Like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die, and I need to understand what's going on, and I also need to understand what type of structures do we have, and if we need somebody else, and I want to choose the people that it's coming after you're gone. And it's such like a difficult conversation all the time. Sometimes I wish, like, I hope somebody could come and mediate the relationship with my dad and his daughters.
There actually are psychologists in the family office world who specialize, I'm not making this up, with an elder like a creator specifically dealing with the son or specifically dealing with the daughter. As you've been in the family office world for 20 years and traveled the world and been part of university and other platforms and programs, you just meet so many people. So there are specific niches that are that specific. It's crazy.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if they need to be a psychologist. Actually, I wouldn't even really feel comfortable just with the title. I think there needs to be more than that, again, because in this space, every aspect is more complex than for most people. So it's not just about psychoanalyzing me or whatever. It's more about understanding how to be firm, how to pull people to do something and come together. And we go back to the emotional intelligence part, right? It's almost like being a coach, to be honest, but for the whole family. So also knowing how to choose your coach or where to find them, it's very relevant for the transition that we're seeing in the current world. And that leads me to my next question. I mean, I feel like you've answered already some of that, but where do you see the most significant disconnection between the the wealthy people that are being more and more and more, and then the lack of competent advisors to serve them? Again, there's a lot of niches, but I still feel like there's not enough people serving the community. So where do you see this disconnection?
No, but there could be. The fact is, a lot of them are kind of educated in the same type of educational platform, a lot of similar groupthink among professors. And the lack of, when I interviewed billionaire Michael Saylor, who went to MIT and is brilliant and is a billionaire, created a public company. Many of you know him as being the voice of Bitcoin. He put it pretty simply in terms of the greatest value he got from MIT, and that is the capability, back to that word, capacity and capability, the capability of thinking for oneself. That what you might have learned that might have been accurate in the moment 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, the world is simply very different now. Not everything is 2 times 2 is 4. It's not that simple. It's complex, it's adaptable. The metrics change a little bit like playing poker. With each hand, the odds and things get different. You have to adapt on the fly. Now, you said something that stuck in me a little while ago that I just can't ignore it. When you mentioned relative to HR, and yes, the most important thing in a successful family, including in the family, within the family office, and advisors outside, is the quality of the people, followed arguably by technology, including AI and systems. So if the quality of the people around a family and the family office is the most important, how important then is HR? And I think I go back to a point that Mrs. Hormozy, not Alex, but his wife, I believe it's Layla, if I have that correct, Tosh. Mm-hmm. So she basically had a comment, using a little bit of my words, that for the most part, HR is commonly, as it's currently, as we know it around the world, kind of a little bit of bullshit. It's PC, it's garbage, it's protecting your butt. You want a real people officer. That would be the 2 most important roles in a single family office are getting the right people in the right seat, AKA Jim Collins. Therefore, a real people officer, not some HR crap. A real people officer is number 1, and a chief learning officer to teach capacity and capability. I am giving all my secrets away today. But just because I'm telling you the secrets, like you said, Tosh, doesn't mean that they're so easy to execute, partially due to, again, my dentist analogy. You're just going to assume who you know must be the best of the best because you're making the assumption based on your ego, without having quantifiable facts. You know, when I meet with billionaires, including multiple in the Forbes 30, like I ask them, who is your CPA? Who is your auditor? Who is your T&E on legal, on business? What hedge funds are you in? Who could I talk to there? I'm nosy. I'm curious. I want to find out because this is my life. I dedicated my life 24/7 to the family office community. Again, like you said earlier, I looked at it almost 20 years ago and it's not gotten better. It lacked rigor. It lacked institutional quality. It lacked critical thinking and zero creativity, zero. And that really hasn't changed, especially that latter part in the last 20 years. The challenge is when you're creative, you are going to be wrong. And you have to not be afraid to look stupid, something that I've done pretty well at over multiple times in my 20 years. But there are sometimes, boy, do I hit a grand slam. And I'm ahead of the curve. Now, I could get into mitigating and managing risk and how to do that properly and from investing and not investing, but that's not really the core focus of kind of your question. So I know I kind of answered it a little bit in kind of an indirect way, but I would really look at, you brought it up relative to HR, and I'm going to go with the verbiage that Layla used, which again is a real people officer, a real one. Mm-hmm. You want to work and be part of a team, the dream team that I mentioned, whether you're inside with the family, AKA a larger family in a family office, or advising to them. There is not enough competent, although there could be, because it's not as hard in the example I gave as being the LeBron James or the Michael Jordan. You have no chance to do that because that takes a certain level of inherent talent coupled with hard work and a little bit of luck, magic, and pixie dust. But you could be great as an advisor. I promise you could. You need mentorship, some direction, some getting re-educated because some of what you learned is crap or was good, but doesn't work anymore. And then, of course, a good part of it, which I don't think we'll have the time to get into today. You may be competent and you may be great, but if no one knows who you are and you're not in the right circles, then kind of like what good is it? So your capability on marketing and salesmanship, for lack of a better word, is
Mhm.
going to be important. I mean, maybe we get into little parts of that a little later, but ballpark, if we're going to be about an hour in today's live, we got about 17, 18 minutes left. So we may save that one. Me and Tosh will do more of these, by the way.
Yes.
So don't worry. If we had to cover everything, it literally would be 100 hours plus. Trying to give you some of the highlights.
Yeah, I love how we say, "Don't worry, we'll be here for you guys. Like we're not going anywhere." But yes, we are planning on doing a series of these conversations. We hope to see a lot of people engaging because we want to answer questions, right? That's the whole point of being here. I mean, Angela and I have conversations all the time outside of the screen, so we're doing this for the people out there that could very well serve that market that we're addressing, and also for the ultra high net worth individuals looking to tap into that talent. So subscribe to all the social media platforms where you can find us, whichever one is your favorite will be there. uh, then I want to mention something about what you were saying about these two roles, Angela, because I think these two roles are, I mean, maybe I'm just exaggerating, but I think when you choose these two people, are probably the most important people for your organization. And here's why. Well, first, the real people officer, which I really like that. Uh, it's absolutely a trustworthy person because they're going to be the gatekeepers of your organization, of your family, of your um, structure, right? So they have to be really trustworthy. They have to be extremely competent in a very good way. They have to be somehow a generalist, and especially they have to understand what your needs are. This is a lot to process for most people. So this is a very, very important role. And then the chief learning officer that you mentioned, I mean, God, this person's gonna be also the gatekeeper of for what comes in and for what comes out from the family office. So I see a lot of like stagnant families, and you say something it's like, when you're creative, you're gonna be wrong. Well, my dear, when you're not creative, you're also gonna be wrong. So it doesn't really matter. Might as well
Just,
try something
just so
different.
one knows about it, you don't have the spotlight on you.
It's just like creativity is one of the most wonderful things that can happen to any organization, because it allows you to learn, it allows you to play, it allows you to uh, stay ahead of people. I really like chess, the board game, because I learned with that game to be 8 steps ahead, and that's creativity. It's not drawing, or it's that is creativity, right? So what we do here in these spaces is be very creative because we want to foresee the future, because we want to win, right? So I think creativity is one of the most important things that the people that you work with must have. And that leads me probably to my last, or maybe yeah, probably my last question before we
That's
have
so
to.
sad, Tosh. The last one. I mean, come on. I've done 3-hour marathons gee, I'm trying to think. I mean, maybe it was Michael Saylor, but definitely Adam Robinson, Ian Burlingame, and others. I want to be like a Twitch streamer and go 24/7. That's going to be my goal. Sometime next year, I'm going to do a 24/7 stream dedicated like solely to family offices. How about that? I'll have probably one viewer, but I will try everything I could to keep you entertained and engaged. You'll come out of that like this either crazy or so full of knowledge. So we'll see. That one person's going to find out next year. Hold me
Crazy,
to that,
crazy,
everyone. I got to do a 24/7 stream.
just to register for that, you're already crazy. Anything after that, I don't know, but no, hopefully we can actually have a whole weekend together in an event or something, bringing people on board so they can also learn. Again, this is not about you or me, this is about the rest of the people, our audience. And yeah, a whole weekend would be great, but it would be great if we can share that with people. So yes, I'm gonna get to my final question because it's Tuesday and I need to go have something to eat. uh,
Intermittent fasting, Tosh. Come on, we all eat too much anyway. Just once a day, and you're good. You get more time to get things done. You're more mentally alert. But I think my audience knows I'm kind of into health and wellness. So I actually do legitimately want to do more kind of health and wellness and how it ties into being more focused and more capable as an advisor, as a family office. So stay tuned. I did back in my family office association days about 4 years ago. I did a program on longevity in New York, and I shared my personal journey and story, brought in some amazing doctors and deep thinkers. I've actually interviewed David Sinclair, the iconic Harvard professor, on issues of longevity. That probably was also 3 to 4 years ago. It's in my Family Office YouTube platform. So again, of course, I never get distracted, but go and look it up. I do like
I never get this. Yeah, we have to bring this guy. I don't remember his name. I'm terrible with names, but he's like spending millions of dollars in pills, and he plans to never die. So yeah, let's.
Oh, that guy on Instagram. Yeah, he's interesting. I mean, I've had Peter Thiel speak before too, but he didn't talk about those issues, although I know he's interested in them and others. So it is something, being serious, that I actually do enjoy. Of course, we want to live longer, healthier. So if we're mentally and physically in the best shape possible, of course, that's a great thing. Now, might that throw a monkey wrench in the whole issue of wealth transition, of what's enough capital, of longevity, on turning over the reins? I mean, that's actually a serious discussion for another time.
Yes, we'll have plenty of time in other conversations. But so let me get to maybe the last question. I don't know, maybe. Um, so could you just give us like a glimpse into the solutions you propose to address the challenges facing family offices and high net worth individuals? And why do you believe these solutions are the best and possibly the only way to move forward the industry?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to answer it as I probably answer most questions, both directly but somewhat indirectly. So many of you noted during my transition from selling Family Office Association many, many months ago, but really forever, I've been working on deep education. So for me, what I consider a master class, and these are like light, whatever, 45 minutes, an hour, even 2 hours. To me, a real master class is an immersive experience, either in person or digitally spread out, really over multiple days. I could argue digitally once a week, probably over a full quarter. And many of you know I'm working on a series that I deem, from my experiences working with the super rich, billionaires, etc., things like creating and reimagining into a top 1% family office, sovereign risk and disaster prep for billionaires or those that want to be, and family offices and AI, that, oh, well, it's that. Like, I'm deciding what it is and they're coming into that. I mean, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's valuable. But when I did my beta testing of my master classes with intimate audiences this summer, what I found the most valuable was doing the framework that I described in the first morning, but then reading the room, and over lunch, like, let me get up to the whiteboard, forget lunch. I just want to eat once a day anyway. And what's your biggest problem? What's your biggest problem? And then see if there's some connectivity points among the attendees, whether digitally or in person, and having, here I go again, the capacity and the capability to be fluid on anything and everything family offices, coupled with adaptability. So I had a script. I had even guest lecturers and videos, and part of that still stuck, but part of that I felt the audience wanted really something a little more customized for them. And part of it was them discussing it, asking them the right questions, and the participants digitally or in the room are every bit the educators that I am. Many of them were much wealthier, so in some ways they're more successful. So the opportunity of, again, capacity, capability, adaptation, changing on the fly, don't being so rigid, like all of those things are very, very important. And then that led me down to creating formally, literally as an LLC, what I created as SFO or Family Office Dream Team, which is the capability of a diverse group of people solving specific challenges or problems, not me forcing the topic on them, but them telling me what it is, and then looking for critical thinking and creative solutions kind of like around that. So again, what did I say earlier? For the most part, do you have a car analogy? Do you have a good chassis that I could work with? You could be a Ferrari, but if you're always breaking down, like, what good are you to me? I'd rather have you be a Chevrolet, but you work perfectly, perfectly. That is going to be often the better fit. Your consistency, your ability for the big three that I mentioned, your competency, your identifying blind spots, moving ego aside, and your ability to adapt, to listen. You don't have to have all the answers. It would be nice if you're 1 degree away from, and through people like me, you, and others, I mean, you kind of are. Now, you may have to be a part of that community or be a part of that to be able to participate in that. You don't have to know everything. You have to be a good listener. You have to know to ask questions. You have to know what you know in your competency and always look to grow and expand, of course. But again, you have to be that 1 degree or direct relationship away from being of value. When I get questions from my members or from a consulting assignment or even in a masterclass that I don't know, or even maybe immediately someone in my dream team doesn't know, we look to understand the question better. Sometimes it's a matter of clarifying the exact pain point or question. And then very simply, I don't know. And give me some time. Maybe that's 24 hours. Maybe that's a week. And I'll have the opportunity of getting back to you. So the capability of having the competency or the 1 degree removed, it's not that hard. What's hard, again, is to be the greatest in the world, the Michael Jordan at this, or the Messi in soccer. Like, you're just not going to be that, period. There's only one. It is easier in the community that we're in to be great. And that's why I use that terminology, top 1%. You could absolutely be top 1%. And if that is not true, and I fail you and you fall a little short, okay, I made you better. I probably made you, or you kind of made yourself, because you have it inside you to be the best version of yourself. You were in the middle, now you're top 10%. I would like to have you be top 1%, but maybe that isn't possible. But you're still going to be better than where you started. And again, today's not going to be the opportunity for us to get more into marketing and salesmanship and identifying where, quote unquote, the wealthy are, and then how to be attractive to them and how to offer services that could be value. I gave you one idea with the transition of a family within the generations and how likely the rising generation is not going to be too attuned to the current advisors. Now, that doesn't say much about the current advisors to the family if they were not engaging with the younger generation and are appearing, whatever, too old and stodgy. With age, however, as I'm an older gentleman, hopefully comes a level of wisdom, coolness under pressure, and the opportunity of more depth in your Rolodex to solve problems. So relax. You young guns don't have all the answers here. But you do bring, I hope, a spark, a level of engagement, more tech savviness. And we didn't really have the time today to get into AI. But I am absolutely telling you, I meant everything that I said in the live that I did last week. And I have a masterclass around this. I've spent over 100 hours. I've spoken to the leading thought leaders. I've interviewed Dr. Craig Kaplan. Look it up on my @Family Office on YouTube. That was like a 2.5-hour interview. Everything that you know, I was going to say is coming to an end. That would be a little too stark. But it's all changing. And you could either ignore it. This is like NFTs from 3 years ago. Bullshit. First of all, there's going to be value within the technology of Web3 and NFTs that is going to be valuable moving forward. Stop being stuck in the mud. Adapt, change. But there's no question AI is going to be significantly impactful. And I'm looking at the messages that came in on the message board last week when I did it. Never, I will never be replaced by AI. Really, never. Up in 50 years, what you do is so incredible that you're not going to be replaced. Bullshit. You might be replaced like now, let alone in 2 or 3 years. If all you do is in your mind, rote memory, recycling what you learned, whether 20 years ago or yesterday, like any technology that's more enhanced in AI, which again is the example I gave, and a deep insider at Microsoft told me they're shocked at what they're learning from even GPT and other platforms. And I moved beyond really LLM to more generative AI. Everything is changing. You have to adapt and you can't wait. I think you have to do it right now. And you have to march yourself towards greatness in what you're doing, towards building up a substantial net worth, which you could. And these are all things that will allow you as an advisor to have some of the same challenges and vulnerabilities that the families you may be representing have. And right, those would be better problems than Maslow's hierarchy of wondering about, food and shelter and water. Now you're in more of a bigger picture about your heirs, about your legacy. These are all really, really important topics. Again, I go back to you could be great. You really could be. But do you want to be? And if you want to be, the resources are out there to exponentially grow your knowledge. Could you do it organically? Probably. I don't know. It took me like 20 years, but of course you're better and smarter than me. I get it. But if you could accelerate that into a month, even into a year, like how valuable is that to you? And, Tosh, I can't answer that. I could answer it for me. You could answer it for you. But these are all things that I look forward to engaging more, not just with billionaires and entrepreneurs doing well and family office executives, but I love them too. But I want to be of value to all of you. And these are all things that taking from my experiences and my way of thinking, where I know you could be great. You have it in you, and me and others would like to help you get there.
Thank you, Angelo. I just want to have my last remarks in what you just said. I don't remember who this quote is from, because again, I'm terrible with names, but if you can write the solution down, you already have half of this. If you can write the problem down, you already have half of the solution, right? So understanding the problems is crucial. So I think there's 3 elements to that. One, you talk extensively about it, which is the mindset. You need to want to be that 1%. You want to be coachable. You want to learn. You want to consistently improve. So that is the first element, the mindset. The second element is the environment. Do you have an environment where you can learn these things? And, I'm probably not the favorite people of the crowd, because I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn these things. And people would ask me, like, why don't you just buy a house? I was like, because it's going to take me 20 years to learn this if I don't pay for access to this information. So people have to just be rich thinkers, not poor dad, rich dad, like rich thinkers. I remember when I was in school, I've always been very privileged. So I had the opportunity to go to school and realize that I was really bad at math. If I hadn't go to school,
makes 2 of us.
I wouldn't know, right? I wouldn't know that I was terrible at math. And then I had private classes, and, my family, again, we were not rich by any means, but we always prioritized that. And I asked my dad, why are you paying for a private tutor? And he said, because it's going to shorten your learning time. And you only have this many years. So I learned that from my poor dad, who actually thinks very richly. He said, time is your most valuable asset. So you want to pay somebody else. And Cody Sanchez talks about this all the time.
Yeah, she's great.
You want to pay someone to get their 10,000 hours of expertise, right? So environment is the second component. You need to go to an environment where you learn what you don't know, to understand what the problem could look like. Either you are an ultra high net worth individual or an advisor, okay? You're both on the same boat. You don't know what you don't know. So go to these environments where you can learn. And then with your expertise, there's the third element, which is now you can actually start looking for someone that can solve that problem for you, or as an advisor, that you can solve that problem for someone because you know what it entails. So I think those three elements, Angelo, and in order, are part of and a very critical part of the solution for the industry. We reached the top of the hour. I want to thank everyone who was here. I know these are very tough conversations and they absorb a lot of energy. So thank you again for being with us, Angelo. I look forward to doing many more of these series with you. Everybody, have a great rest of your day.
This will be a lot of fun. I will give a 1-minute wrap up. If you have to run, Tosh, no worries. But one, this was great. I'd like to thank, first of all, Tosh Salas. Make sure, please, you go and follow her on LinkedIn, on other platforms, and Twitter. Reach out to her. She's a global wealth of knowledge, much deeper than just investing or her legal background. I think the opportunity for you to learn and to benefit, and hopefully me bringing you amazing people like this. And I got so fortunate that Tosh had a chance to kind of interview me, and her questions, especially that last one, was kind of a tough one. So hopefully I'll be even better the next time around. And many of you know, again, how to reach me. I'm active on all social media platforms. You can mainly just want to keep it really simple, angelorobles.com. Then you'll find my email. It's angelo@angelorobles.com. I think most, but not all, of my social media links are on there. And I'm updating it constantly to some degree because so much is quickly changing. Many of you know I'm putting a big effort into what I do in Family Office Masterclass that I own, my work and my branding in what I do in Family Office TV. And really, my SFO continuity is more focused directly on families and SFOs. That is all inclusive to all that I do. But we have a limited number of charter memberships available. And I guess the good news is that's kind of coming to an end because I'm almost there from that perspective. But there still is so much more that I could do. I'm sorry, audience. We had a fair number of questions and comments today that we did not have a chance to get to as much as I would like. Mark F., wise ass, by the way, but it's all good. I kind of like that little bit of the analogy you gave. Natasha, thank you so much. Adam, you always ask great questions. I look forward to doing collaborations and work with you. Sorry I couldn't get to your question today. Kalastro, thank you so much. Eric Von Rompe, I believe it is. Thank you. You've all been very kind. I could have done a better job noting some of the questions that you have, so pardon me. Email me, reach out to me anytime. Thank you all so much. Thank you again, Tosh. Look forward to the next time. Everyone, I'm Angelo Robles. Thank you all so much.